Buster, stone-faced and nimble-footed, was navigating through a series of pratfalls when the phone rang. I looked at the clock, 11:26. I ignored the ringing, and soon a flinty voice came over my machine. "Hey, is this Sal? Sal, this is Henry. I'm a friend of Jimmy's. Told me to give you a call. So I'm calling you, huh?" Well, I hadn't forgotten about Jimmy. His existence had become more and more unreal and remote with each passing day. Yet hearing his name spoken aloud by the stranger's voice gave me a jolt of recognition. Jimmy Barone, the writer, the kid you grew up with, had disappeared. I picked up. "Hello, this is Sal." "Hey, Sal, hey." The fuzziness in this man's voice and the pattern in the background indicated to me that he was calling from a bar. The man, Henry wanted to explain about, he and Jimmy had hung out the other night. They were drinking buddies, and Jimmy had told him he was leaving for North Carolina and had no idea when he'd be back. As a send-off, he and Jimmy had drunk themselves sideways, and before Jimmy left, he gave Henry my phone number and said, "Make sure you call my buddy Sal. He's someone who gets it. Tell him about North Carolina and tell him that Jimmy said, stay curious." Why hadn't Jimmy called me directly, I wondered, and North Carolina, something to do with Laura Cicerone? Henry and I decided to meet the next day. "Maybe at the Diving Mermaid. It's his bar on Neptune and 16th. When me and Jimmy drink, let's say 4. Happy hour starts at 4. It'll be easy to find me. Look for the Dwarf." And that was that. I was to meet Henry the Dwarf at 4, the Diving Mermaid on Neptune and 16th. I felt, what, hasn't happened to you? I felt the sudden revival of blood passion inside me. I was back on the case. Yet was there even a case to be back on? Henry had seen and hung out with Jimmy and hadn't reported anything strange about his behavior, except for the fact that Jimmy had gone to North Carolina, which, whether motivated by Laura Cicerone or not, wasn't all that strange. Still, there was the business about fractals and being dead, and until I got some clear-cut answers from Jimmy himself or some other viable source, the case wasn't closed. On Monday, I heard from Rico, who had gotten out. A whole different thing about it. He starts doing a tag switching scam, and his friend got arrested and winds up in jail. On Monday, I heard from Rico who had gotten out. He told me that he was taking a temporary vacation from tag switching and reiterated Desiree's invitation for me to spend Christmas Eve at their place. I left at 3 o'clock and took the R train to Stillwell. There was an ice-prickly wind rolling in off the Atlantic, and I hastily made my way to Neptune and 16th. The Diving Mermaid was located just off the corner. A wooden mermaid in need of a makeover was posted above the entrance. I walked through the front door, and the instant shift from bright cold to warm dark was comforting. The crowd was sparse and the place modest sized. The interior was an L shape in reverse, with a half-dozen tables occupying the inside of the L. The bar ran parallel to the tables, about 20 feet of floor space between them. A Battlestar Galactica pinball machine and old-fashioned jukebox dominated the background. The TV was mounted in a corner at the far end of the bar and was tuned to ESPN. At the end of the bar, closest to the front door, I saw a dwarf drinking a mug of dark beer. I went over and said his name. Henry whip-snapped his head, and when he saw me, shouted, "Hey, pal!" as if I were a dear old friend of his that he was overjoyed to see. "Good to know you, Sal. Good to know you," Henry said, and pumped my hand vigorously. "You want to sit here? Let's get a table. Let's go get a table. Hey, Frank, I'm going to move to a table." What I first heard on the phone was even more pronounced in person. Henry spoke in jittery staccato bursts and jabs that challenged my equilibrium. His breath between word flurries was a quick, hard sucking of air, just enough oxygen to keep going. Henry slid off his stool, mug in hand, and with a noticeable limp led me to a table near the jukebox. Henry couldn't have been more than 4 feet tall. He was wearing a pea green overcoat, which fit him big, and a coal gray cap. The overcoat was badly frayed, and its buttons dangled precariously. Fire orange hair with a greasy sheen spilled out the sides and back of his cap and cut off just above his shoulders. A natty fire orange beard covered his face, which was a geological masterpiece of crags, roofs, and contours. His nose, a chewed-up pink marshmallow, protruded from the center of it. The bartender, Frank, came over. He was a solid-looking man with neatly combed white hair and cloud fluff for eyebrows. He placed a cocktail napkin in front of me and said, "What are you drinking?" "What are you drinking?" I asked Henry. "I was drinking Murphy's," Henry responded after draining the rest of what had been in his mug. "I'll have another," he said to Frank. "Shot a wild turkey." "I'll do a Murphy's minus the wild turkey," I said to Frank. "Right," Frank said and left. Henry was about to say something to me, then exploded into a dry, hacking cough. He placed his pudgy hand over his mouth and continued coughing as his body violently shook and tears came into his eyes. When the fit finally ended, Henry took his hand away from his mouth and stared at his palm. Then he looked at me and wheezed, "Half a lung and then some." He cackled and wiped his hand on the back of his coat. Wiped his hand on his coat. Frank returned with our drinks. You want to pay as you go or run a tab, he asked me. Henry cut in. Anything he drinks, Frank, goes on my tab. Put him on my tab. Will do, Hen, Frank said and left. Henry quickly shot back his wild turkey and slammed the empty glass down on the table. Then he said, call me Hen, Sal. All my friends call me Hen. You know why they call me Hen? I ventured to guess. It's short for Henry. Henry rattled a cheap, chest-deep laugh. Yeah, that's part of it. Hen short for Henry. But there's another reason. My cock. I have a great cock, a big one. And I like to use it. Don't worry, only on women. So you see, Sal, I'm Hen. It's the cock. I don't get it, I said. The hen's the female, the rooster's the cock. Hen laughed again. Yeah, I know, but we already got a rooster. Freddie the Red Rooster. He's not here now, but he's a regular. Don't know why they call him the Red Rooster. Knocks up his cock, I don't think. Plus, like you said, Hen short for Henry. Rooster's not short for anything. Pointed at his chest. See this, he said? See the t-shirt I'm wearing? Hen held his coat open as I read the words printed on his t-shirt. No man is an island, but we shore our beaches. The words were accompanied by a peeling decal image of a man, a hard-on tent in his shorts, ogling a woman in a bikini who was lying in the sand. Only 3 things I give a shit about, Sal, Henry said. He put up one finger, pussy, then another, booze, and a third thing, art. Those are the 3 things that keep me going. Hen said it again, this time compounding the 3 words into one. Pussy, booze, art. Sounded like a fancy French wine. Hen went on to explain how he was a painter and that he and Jimmy had often closed down the Mermaid, rambling about art and literature. You want to see something amazing? Hen said, and rose to his feet and toddled unevenly over to the bar. I followed. Look at that, he said, pointed at a framed piece of parchment paper that hung on the wall behind the bar. In elegant, stylized print that looked like it could have been written with a fountain pen, it read, what things have we seen done at the Mermaid? Heard words that have been so nimble and full of subtle flame. As if that every one from whence they came had meant to put his whole life within a jest, and a resolve to live a fool the rest of his dull life. Francis Beaumont, Ben Jonson. That's amazing, don't you think? Hen said. When you think about it, a bar on Coney Island, a bar that's not a manzy-pansy poet bar, has got this beauty mark on the wall, that's Frank for you. The Mermaid's his place. You know, guy really knows his stuff. Sports, science, art, film. Guy reads everything. A real Renaissance guy. And his bar's named after the stuff of romantic poets. Well, Latin, Coney Island's got mermaid history. Lots of mermaid history here. I took in what Hen said and looked over at Frank, who was drawing beer from the tap. I surveyed the rest of what Frank's walls had to offer. Photos of baseball players, boxers, entertainers, archival prints of Coney Island, an isolated photo of a bearded Hemingway and a dark-skinned man holding up what looked like a marlin. I could see why Jimmy would love this place. If he had dreamed up his ideal spot to drink and gab and carouse, the end result would have looked and felt a lot like the Mermaid. Hen and I ordered another round and went back to our table. I asked him if he had seen Jimmy a lot in the past month. That one time 2 days ago. I said, where you been, Jimmy? He said, here and there. That's what he said, here and there. Did he seem different when you saw him? I asked Hen. Different like how? I don't know. Troubled. Or not his usual self. Troubled is Jimmy's usual self. And cracker. Jimmy's Jimmy. I spent the next 15 minutes spilling the beans about Jimmy's phone call and everything that had come after. Ghosting, the tape recorder, Laura C. Cerrone, Anna. Do you know Anna? I asked Hen. No, by your description, I'd like to. I'd like to know Anna from the inside in, know what I mean? I asked Hen what Jimmy had been up to in the past several months. Up to like how? Was he working? No, you know Jimmy takes whatever shit gig he can to stay afloat. Think his last gig, think it was, he was a moving man. Jimmy hates work, unless it's writing. I'm the same, except for me, it's painting. I got a fixed income, though, so... Several hours passed and the Mermaid filled up. The air grew thick with cigarette smoke and dialogue. Hen had drunk about double the amount that I had. His eyes had a syrupy glaze, and froth had migrated from the corners of his mouth to his beard. The jukebox was playing the Eagles' Desperado. The man who had picked the song stood next to the jukebox and lip-synced with his eyes closed. He also made dramatic gestures that seemed a sign language of the dispossessed or the heartbroken. The comforting bar dark of the Mermaid had worked its way deep inside me, and I didn't want to leave. I felt like Jimmy's understudy, as Hen and I talked about sports and art and literature. Then there was a history and folklore of Coney Island, of which Hen was an aficionado. He talked and serrated chicken scratch. I scrawled down random facts on numerous cocktail napkins. Coney Island, formerly an island, now a peninsula with landfill connecting it to Brooklyn. The Lenape Indians who inhabited the island called it Nadiak, land without shadows, because its position keeps the beach in sunlight all day. Coney Island from the Dutch, Coney Island, Rabbit Island, one of the diverse rabbit population, because of the diverse rabbit population before resort development destroyed their habitat. 1885 to 1886, the Coney Island Elephant, a hotel and brothel, the first site to greet immigrants arriving in New York City, not the Statue of Liberty. The night wore on, and the steady increase in females at the Mermaid brought out a predatory hen. He openly leered at women, made shameless passes, and occasionally barked or howled at them. One woman who didn't take too kindly to Hen's placement of his hand yanked his beard, called him a dirty little midget, and stormed off. Hen looked at me with liquid fire in his eyes and said, "Stupid cow, I don't mind being insulted, but at least do it accurately. I'm a dwarf, not a midget. Midget's body is small but rightly proportioned. Do I look like rightly proportioned to you? You haven't even seen my cock." Hen paused, took a sip of pork wine and switched to a conclusion. "No one Voltaire said God's a comedian playing to an audience too afraid to laugh. I'm not too afraid to laugh. Ugly dwarf body, big beautiful cock, trust me, I laugh." Eventually, Hen got lucky when Josie, a large woman with